Okay, so welcome, reality programmers. I have some special guests today, and we're going to be talking about grid working, and we're going to talk about how to make a protocol for grid working, and we're just going to do our best and offer some suggestions from our experiences. And
Mm.
with me, I have Amanda. Would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Amanda Kuhn. I don't know what I've been following this path that Nikki and Joaquin sucked me into the first time we went to go see Shiprock, and the magic and joy in visiting these ancient megalithic and archaeologic sites has just been really made me feel alive and such joy in how I've learned how to connect with them and travel with this amazing group of people and in Japan too. So I've just been kind of wanting to learn as much as I can and do these trips because it's super important and powerful in how we're engaging and also what we bring back to our world, and where we are on the planet after having these amazing life-changing experiences and how they shift you. Anyway,
Yeah, don't they? Yeah, they
yeah,
absolutely impact my reality for sure,
yeah.
and the leveling up and everything. Yeah, it's really
Mhm.
cool. Then we have Nikkiana Jones, Megalith Queen from she has a YouTube channel. So Nikki, you want to tell us about yourself quickly?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. In terms of grid work, I think I've been grid working my whole life in some kind of way, but like I've always heard rocks, and I can like hear like kind of like a frequency noise that comes off of them, and I've been
Mhm.
really attracted to them my whole life. And then I'm from New Mexico. I've been really big into the Indian ruins, and then also looking at like life has been kind of a series of unlearning, right? Like I'm like there's what they tell you like that your reality is, and then there's what you're sensing your reality actually is. And I strongly feel pulls to go to certain places, and like I almost feel like I'm punished if I don't do it. Like I have to like take the impulse, otherwise like things don't go good. So I at this point the only place I'm missing on my little board is Australia, which we have to redeem pretty soon, and Antarctica. And other than that, I've touched every continent. So it's just one of those things where avid traveler, avid into ancient megalithic sites. So yeah.
Cool. And Joaquin.
Yeah, hi. I have a YouTube channel called Esoteric Wisdom. I'm a psychic healer and kind of the same as Nikki. I think I've been grid working more than I ever knew my whole life. And kind of experiencing the energies in your environment plays such a big factor, I think, subconsciously in people's lives. And they don't, I think, understand how much the environment plays a factor. We were just talking earlier before we started the podcast how um, our stuff you bring back home from places you've been affects your life and and how
Good.
right and then it's like that I think that plays such a big factor, and there's a deep spiritual element through meaning and symbology that people just have no awareness of or understanding or respect when they're interacting with certain locations, and especially megalithic sites as Nikki goes to, or then kind of us have we gone to. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think just interacting with that is super important, and yeah, healing it and is kind of what we do or what I do.
Yeah, and you're also a Qigong, Tai Chi, Qigong.
Yeah, the martial arts component. I practice Qigong and Tai Chi, and also like more combat martial arts, and that plays a huge factor too, in kind of understanding everything revolving around energy and kind of movement and connecting with stuff like trees or nature, the nature spirits, nature in general. I practice Qigong, and that's a very that kind of got me that my foot in the door of understanding energy work. Understanding the physical component of it is huge, and then understanding the energetic is a big factor. So yeah, big Qigong practitioner. And yeah.
And yeah, and I think actually Qigong and grid working go hand in hand. And this was after our experience in our megalithic tour of Japan last September
Mhm.
September 2025. All of us and a few other people went around Nara, the ancient capital of Japan, and other places. And that was really my first time grid working in a group, because normally I bilocate there or go there by myself with people that aren't grid workers and not interested in doing anything and don't see anything. So it was really good for me, a good experience for me to go grid working with a bunch of people, all bringing their amazing, unique and super abilities. It's amazing how all that worked out. But every night, I noticed that, Joaquin and I were the ones downstairs outside doing Qigong, Tai Chi, just to process the energies that we experienced each day.
Yeah, and just I think a quick beautiful synergy that I found too was that you actually were intuitively practicing some of the moves already, which I found was super fascinating and interesting. And there's some sort of profound and even when I was and I'll just speak to this before I get to that, the when I was running, I used to do sort of a qigong move to control my breath, and I didn't even know what it was at first. And then when I met you, and in Japan, you were doing the finger, the detangling, and I was like, okay, so there's such a synergy across, all cultures, all shamanic traditions, but just intuitive people, and I found that was a beautiful synergy. That it's like, oh, Anne's practicing the same qigong moves just intuitively. So
Yeah, that was so
yeah.
amazing when I saw you doing this. I'm like, what are
Mhm.
you doing that for? And because all of these megaliths, well, in Japan, I don't know about the rest of the world, but the ones in Japan, and I'm guessing the rest of the world too, they have a corrupt mantid component to them. Mantids, like a praying mantis, they're about, I don't know, 6 to 10 feet tall, even taller, kind of humanoid mantis. And they're the most beautiful, loving, beautiful, magical cosmic energies. And they're super telepathic. And they're actually attached to a lot of the stones, because the stones are all a technology. The megaliths, they're a technology. And mantids, with their super telepathy, they operate. They're really good at operating technology, because all technology, super advanced technology, always has a degree of sentience to it. And so the mantids, with their super telepathy, work really well with technology, like quantum technology, like stone, megalith technology. So they're often the operators of technology. And of course, a corrupt mantid can access that technology and corrupt it or stagnate it or prevent others from using it, whatever that may be. And this action, when you shake your hands like this, it's a vibration. And the way mantids can cloak something is through a thought frequency of vibration. And so when you do this, you're actually decloaking what the mantid is hiding. It's like a decloaking ability. You kind of have to earn it, so you can get good at it and earn that decloaking ability. Just make sure that what you're decloaking is for your highest good. Some things should remain cloaked.
Yeah.
So that's just a journey in itself to learn what to decloak and what not to decloak.
I
Depending on
noticed
what
you,
to do it.
Help us
saw a lot.
understand. Oh,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to one element that at least a few of us is for me personally is the voice harmonics, like the frequency. A lot of times these stones just love being sung to, and what's like, maybe you could help break down this, you know, for people who are grid working, like this is a very real thing. The harmonics, the frequency, the voice, which, you know, some of us kind of have the abilities around that. And I know when I came back, like, you know, sometimes when you're there in person, you know, you may be sensing things, but also can follow you home, right? And you're engaging that way. But help me understand like the voice harmonics frequency thing, because that seems to be something that we are doing all the time when we're doing these trips.
Yeah, definitely voice, the words we speak, our voice, our sound, our tones, they're all magic. They're all harmonics. And it depends what DNA lineage you have most active. We all have many DNA lineages. So whatever's most active in you, that might be the super ability that you're tuning into and, you know, like not channeling, but, you know, utilizing. And so I think everyone's sounds and tones work differently. And I just loved it that you know, as soon as we got to our first megalith, was the first megalith these Masuda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God.
I love it.
I know. So the first megalith we went to as a group was Masuda Iwafune. And it's this massive, massive rock carved, very unique carvings. It's even got like teeth.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of a bamboo forest, and I think there was only 2 parking spaces there, and like there was no one there.
Yeah.
We were the only ones there. I think another couple came later, but we were there for a long time by ourselves. And when we first arrived there, you know, I just saw you guys do your thing and you just started singing to it. And I just thought, wow, that is so beautiful. And, you know, you were embedding codes, you know, exchanging information, doing healing, all sorts of things. It's information exchange.
I see it as also waking it up. And okay, and
Yes.
also the bamboo was kind of another cloaking thing too, I remember. And then like seems like there was some octopus cloaking everywhere, or squid or something. So that was interesting.
They're everywhere.
So I'm of the belief now, like I'm not 100% sure this is human, like built all of these megaliths around the world. I don't know. It like sometimes I get, particularly like in Peru, I get dragon energy. Some other places I get like in Turkey, I got a lot of gnome energy. Like different places I get like different almost like Lord of the Rings kind of realm that we once had here. And I don't know if it's another dimension that's bleeding into our dimension and that we're seeing it. But regardless, it is a technology, and it's like I definitely get the calling that you tone into it to almost like bring it awareness of where it is in our reality right now. And so there's like it's something to do with timelines, and um I know it's needed and I know it's good, and I feel like a mechanic or something. I feel like I'm a tinkerer of a machine when I go to these things, and particularly when I try to activate what I can. But I also know that it takes more than one voice and it takes more than a couple of tones. I don't know what it takes, but I know I can just do my part. So,
Yeah. And I mean, you've got different sounds and tones to what Amanda does.
mhm.
And you might bring in, you know, you might activate different DNA depending on what that stone needs. Because a lot of stones, you know, they're all unique and individual, and they all carry different DNA lineage. The one at the Masuda Iwafune was, you know, a certain DNA lineage, and the other stones we met or we went to, you know, they can carry different groups with the energy of different groups. And so, you know, we're all multidimensional. We carry lots of different DNA lineages. We can activate what we need for each unique rock. But
Mhm.
when we all did it, we're all bringing our own unique awakening energies, data sharing,
Yep.
higher self trades, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I think that's the technology the rocks carry. But when we first went there, and this is kind of important as a protocol for people doing grid work, I think it's a good idea to tune in before you go,
Mm-hmm.
like weeks or months before you go, to see what issues you can remedy resolve before you go.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a much nicer time when you get there. And so when we all arrived, I noticed you're all just dancing around the bamboo forest, and bamboo has a super ability for cloaking and protection. And so that's why it was nestled in this beautiful bamboo forest. And I noticed that you're all like prancing around, singing into it. You're all really excited. And I'm just like feeling the heavy, dark energies. And I'm like, oh God, this is not good. This is not good. And I look over to Joaquin. He's got exactly the same look on his face. And we just kind of paired off together and we're like, okay, what are you getting? And it's like, oh my God, mantid, corrupt mantid. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And so Joaquin
Yeah.
and I are like healing mantids, dealing with them, negotiating with them, while everyone else is going, oh my God, isn't this beautiful? Oh, let's sing into it,
I still feel that energy. I'm like,
I do too.
So,
It was
yeah,
so beautiful. Even
lucky you
afterwards.
guys.
Yeah.
It was like, that stone came into my sleep and was like trying to connect. Like, it was so powerful. And you can ask Aaron. He saw the lights flicker because I said, I will address you tomorrow. I promise I'll come back and meet with you. And like, when I was taking my time and getting myself a meal, my lights in the kitchen started flickering. Like, people need to understand that these are very real, and like the connection to them can be very powerful and very beautiful. And I think, like you said, Anne, it's really good to tune in. And I think we all did. I did anyway, is into the best that I knew how, ahead of time. And there's a piece of your higher self, I think, that kicks in and takes over there. Um, but like, it's so beautiful, but also, like you said, there can be, some entanglements that can happen. And even though it feels beautiful and wonderful in that moment, like even just our more recent trip to Teotihuacan, I felt so wonderful when I got back. So much joy, so much happiness, such a beautiful experience. But then a couple weeks after, I was realizing there were some entanglements, and it hit me. It felt like depression. It felt like low energy. And so thankfully Anne helped me, to disentangle that. So, I think that's part of why I was thinking, you guys, let's connect and let's just make sure when we're doing this work, it's really important to do the pre-work going in, have some ideas of if you're feeling something uncomfortable, like you guys getting hit right there, what are the questions to ask, getting grounded and level, and how to kind of work through that before, during, and after. And it's going to be different probably from case to case, depending on what you're dealing with. But I think there's some good general things that we could look at for protocols.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, before you visit a site, if you're having the intent to go and do grid work, so what I would normally do is tune in and get a number of how many issues I have to remedy resolve for that rock or that megalith. And then I'll go through the list, and it might take me a week or longer to go through that list. And usually, depending on the site, it can be quite brutal, but it's really important to go through the list. But I think everyone's different. I know when I was at Masuda Iwafune and everyone's prancing around singing to the rock, and what I just looked at Joaquin, and he had the same look as me, and then we're just off to the side dealing with mantids and all this dark crap. I realized that he's like me, you're like me. So we go deep and dark. We have super abilities to deal with predators, to deal with pretty dark entities that normally other people don't see or don't get noticed by.
Mhm.
And so, Joaquin and I got hit really bad.
Yeah.
And so it kind of depends who you are. Not everyone is like Joaquin and myself. Other people are like Nikki that just have this, a stone lineage, megalith lineage DNA, I guess we could call it. The queen of megaliths. And so you would have something different to prepare.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I
Amanda,
almost see it like
your
there's
sounds
like
and tones are amazing. So I would
there's
say
different
you
roles.
sing.
Yeah, we have different job titles. Like I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like you guys are like defenders and like you're like warrior clan getting things off, and I'm
Oh,
like a
we're the
mechanic.
cleanup crew. We're the cleanup.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just a
So,
mechanic, I'm just like a like engineer mechanic thing, something in there. Like I'm putting something together and I'm like connecting them globally, every place that I go. Like I know I've been doing that for a long time. And but I don't have the senses to see the predators. Like,
mhm.
and it doesn't mean that I don't get attacked still, because I do like get wake up with a crink in my neck, or I have all kind, or my tailbone is hurt for 3 years, or like I get I do get physical attacks from some of these places that I can like even pinpoint to where I got
Mhm.
it, but at the time I can't see what hit me.
Just to establish kind of a couple main things, because first I wanted to note that when Nikki said different sites have actually aren't human and built by gnomes and stuff, there was burps. I was totally feeling, so that's totally true and total a part of our reality where the fantasy creatures have built a lot of these sites. Secondly, I think establishing that really what grid work is in like a in a definitional way, that these sites are key nodal points of the consciousness of our, if you want to call it Gaia or our Earth or our plane or our whatever of existence that we're experiencing. These are sites that are big, energetic, almost like nodal points, or if you could look at them like organs or blood vessels of the actual planet that serve a big sort of piece of actually how the planet exists, and that they're not actually these, like how we've been told in history that they're these sites of, oh, this culture built this culture built this, yet every single culture talks about that they've predated it. The sites have predated the actual culture itself. So these are key, like magical, almost holy sites. And it's kind of like if you don't do a liver cleanse, or if, the world sometimes, or the region of the culture of the people haven't processed a certain element of just their consciousness. And with any aspect of it, I think we're getting to like the aspect of healing where there's the shadow work of acknowledging, oh, I was really rude to that person then, I was really mean. And then the healing of it, the forgiveness, and then fixing it. So I think that's an element of what, like me, Amanda, and Nikki kind of do in that order of the addressing it, giving it the unconditional love piece, and then actually fixing it. It's that exact same dynamic of psychology healing, but then processed through the actual site, which has a real interdimensional, multidimensional component to it. And then having, yeah, just acknowledging that sort of piece as a very big, yeah, just kind of element of healing, and just kind of what you're speaking to, where it's the process of you have to heal your specific piece of it, but understanding too that there's the awareness where, sometimes you go to a certain site and, in my childhood, I would go to some site and I didn't know why I was feeling bad on like the vacation. Or I think a lot of people go through those feelings and they don't understand what's really going on a interdimensional level. So just having the awareness that you're probably healing something in your unconscious, I see most people doing that, especially like what you said, and when someone gets sick and they're going on some vacation and then boom, they get some horrible, like, oh, I'm feeling horrible that day, or they feel wonderful. They're having, their consciousness is interacting with these things and they're not really understanding what it is, but there's that just subconscious magic that people are experiencing. But what's really going on is they're interacting with a part of themselves that they're re-acknowledging in a sense, and they're either healing it or taking on stuff. And unfortunately, some people take on stuff that they basically shouldn't, or then in some cases, people are getting attacked by some interdimensional thing that then makes them very sick and not feel well. So,
And
Yeah,
well,
I
I think
little T
Joaquin,
cells.
oh, I'm think Joaquin, that's good awareness. And I think like, just because we can heal things, should we? It's like you really have to have the discernment of like what is mine to do and what is for my highest good. So I think those intentions going in is important, because I think the healing piece is a big piece for me and my abilities, right?
mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, all of us together, it's so beautiful, the harmony, like what we bring in this dynamic. It's awesome. But one thing that Joaquin brought into my awareness, and I knew this, but I don't always think of it in it, because you get swept in by this place and, oh, I want to go sing to it and I want to do all these things. But, and it's also, Anne's does this in a lot of her protocols. That's why I'm calling it out is, and I'm asking the question, when you are going into the sites, is it important to have as part of the protocol to remain unknown and unseen to energies that aren't for your highest good? Is that an important element to build in?
That I think is a very huge key element as
Yeah,
Anne's
that's why I'm
nodding to it.
asking. I know the
Yeah, no,
answer, but I wanted you to explain.
in my opinion, I think yeah, I think a lot of I guess you could say spiritual people don't or are yeah, basically just don't have that awareness. A lot of spiritual people that can sometimes interact with certain things, and they're kind of unaware of it's. I guess an example could be the only example I could kind of think of is, some things need to be left there, and kind of fixing everything and kind of just a blanket, oh, we'll just fix everything. Well, something might be like a bobcat or a bear that wants to eat you or something, and leaving that alone, and kind of giving it distance and space, and kind of, you don't want to be seen by the mama bear going to protect her cubs, because then she'll charge at you. So there's kind of that element of nature that is a key piece, kind of interacting with it. And yeah, because then if you're interacting with stuff that is not for your highest good, or if you heal stuff that's not for your highest good, there could be and I liken it to the term of like in Indiana Jones, when when he takes the magical little statue and he puts sand on it, it's kind of like this negative trade that could trigger things that result in um, danger, or people don't understand that they're kind of setting off almost booby traps. Um, but yeah, it's very key to remain unknown and unseen to anything that's not for your highest good, because then you can be seen by something that's very negative and literally tries to attack you. So if Anne wants to
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, I completely agree. Often when people go to a site, for example, we went to, Masuda Iwafune. So we're all going there with different missions.
Yeah.
We're in unity, and we have the intent to do our bit. And that's also really important. We're not going to bluster in there and I'm going to fix this and heal that and activate this. Yoo-hoo. No. You go in with the intent, and this is I'm going to be very clear about this. You go in with the intent to do your bit
Mm-hmm.
and remain unknown and unseen
Mm-hmm.
to the energies as required for my highest good alone. Because when these sites are multidimensional, the mantids that Joaquin and I were dealing with were in a different frequency, and Nikki and Amanda and the others, they weren't in that frequency. They didn't see the mantids, and the mantids didn't see them. But
Mm-hmm.
Joaquin and I had stepped into their frequency. And that rock had allowed us, you've got to get these places to like you before you go. Just send them a message, I'm coming. My intent is to just communicate if you're available, but I'm just popping in to say hello, and I'm, what can I do for you that's for my highest good? Have this conversation. If you're not psychic, just make a general intent, for joy, peace, and happiness as applicable for my highest good. So you don't want to push any agenda. Some of these places, some of these stones, like the big round one, I forgot what that was called. I'll show
Yeah.
a photo of it.
Yeah.
That was actually asleep. That was dormant.
Mm-hmm.
And the singing did awaken it to a small degree. It was just what it needed, but that its journey is to awaken in its own time. So we couldn't have gone there to, tap it and say, hello, are you in there? What do you want? What are you good at? It's more like we are very respectful of its journey. So you've got to, each stone, each megalith has their own drama, much like a human.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want to bluster in and be a warrior or a healer. You just want to do your bit. What does it require? What does it need?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think
And
there's
what can I do? What's my bit to do?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's really important not to overstep your boundaries and be disrespectful. And usually these places, they're filled with interdimensional creatures around them as well, both good and bad. There'll be some good elementals hanging out in one frequency, and then some corrupt mantids or whoever in another frequency. And so, Joaquin and I, our super abilities are we can deal with quite negative and dark, corrupt entities. It's a super ability, and you don't want to be engaging with negative entities if you haven't had experience. That's for sure.
it's very high level, and I think
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
very kind of I guess story or allegory I think is very important. It's like, like with an oil spill or with anything regarding like the ocean, if you go to the beach, and this actually was a real experience that I had where there was a big sort of, I think it was like it was a giant seal, like a lion seal or something, and it had one of those like it had like a wire around its neck, and I was trying to talk to it, and I was trying to say like, oh, let me help you and try to get it off, and it just kind of looked at me, and unfortunately, it just swam away, but I think that's kind of, a sad but true touching allegory to this, where sometimes if there's trash or something on the beach, sometimes you just you take up the trash and you can kind of clean up the ocean and take a piece of trash and throw it away that you find on the beach that wasn't yours, and like, okay, I'll just help clean up the beach. But you're not going to swim out 2 miles into the ocean to go try to find a seal to then like take off its thing. So you're not going to go, or if you don't know how to fix like an oil tanker that's had a big oil spill, you're not going to be the mechanic who's going to try to fix that thing. You're going to do your bit to try to maybe like help clean up this bird who has some like oil on it. If that's I think I was seeing that that's a very
Yeah, and
similar allegory to this.
our highest selves can be really gung ho,
Hmm.
and or we can have some corruptions in our guides or entourage, and they can throw us in the deep end, and we can go in there and at a subconscious level or in our dream time, we can actually engage in battles and over extend our energies and entangle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really good to command your higher self before you visit these places. Command your higher self. I do not entangle with energies that are not for my highest good. I remain unknown and unseen to them.
Hmm.
And make this a very clear command to your higher self. So your higher self basically knows not to entangle remember what joy is. A lot of these places are in, have a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so even if
Now, some people might be thinking, like, well, why would I want to do all this stuff and get attacked by these mantid beings or this or this and this and this and this?
that's exactly why I didn't want to go to Göbekli Tepe.
Right? You're like, this is not my
Exactly.
thing, right? What's in
Yep.
it for me? But the thing is like what I will say is that it is a trade. And like for me personally, what I get, and I don't get it from everywhere. Some places it's for me to give my bit to it, and a lot of places it's for it to give its bit to me. And you don't know in advance, or at least I don't know in advance, what's going to be what where. But I will say that a lot of my travels throughout the world are doing this thing is like I get downloads. I get uh how this matrix or how this reality works downloads, and they come from the stones. So that's my motivation, because it's like I get internal answers, and then I get answers from the part of me that's connected to that thing, and it's like reactivated. So it is almost like it's a good journey of awakening within yourself too. So it's not like it's all just like I'm going to a random beach and picking up trash, which is good for the sills or whatever, but like it's like at some point your motivation to do that might not be the highest. I don't know. Yeah, there are trades that could like you do get something out of it. That's what I'm saying, or at least I do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you get something out of it because, you have the megalith DNA lineage. You're very connected to the stones, and you are working to reconnect them, to link them all up, to awaken them. You're here doing that. And for the rest of us, what is grid work? Well, we have different missions. We're going to help clear them because we can. We're going to trade with them because we want to level up. And, different stones have different super abilities, and you can trade with them and go through their little mystery school or earn their ability. So if you actually go to the place, if you're called to a certain place, you might have some issues with that place. That place might know where you can retrieve some of your soul shards from your dragon or your unicorn. It might be linked to your spirit tree. So when you're called to a place, there's always something unique there for you, as well as the collective. It's always good to get these megalithic places back online. A lot of them are in a coma, a lot of them are corrupted, a lot of them are in stagnation, and a lot of them are in ruins. They are in ruins in our frequency, in our dimension. However, they are intact and functioning in another frequency, in another time space. So as we heal ourselves, our realm, and as we go to these places and just sing into them with our love, maybe that's your mission, is just to go to these places and just stay there and sing and be in joy. So you're reminding that place, oh, I remember what love is. I remember what joy is. A lot of these places are in, have a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And so even if you don't think you have any super abilities, but you just go and you just like sitting there and just breathing or doing some Tai Chi or something simple, you don't underestimate your simple acts of kindness to a rock or a place or a person. Never underestimate it. Love is the most amazing frequency. And when you're in a state of bliss, or when you visit these places and, your frequency of love, it's full spectrum healing. And, we are the gods. We are the gods. So even if, like Joaquin and I were actually seeing the mantids and giving them a big hug, and, we're actually doing lots of physical, warrior kind of stuff, the singing, the toning, the contemplation, never underestimate what you're bringing to that space. If you're there probably most likely for a reason.
Mhm.
And so that's why you can really prepare before you go. What are my issues with this place? And command your higher self to remedy, resolve all issues with this place before you arrive, the week before, the month before, so that then you might hit the floor, you might have a week of tears, you might sort of get angry, you might, oh my God, what's this? Is it the full moon? No, you've already triggered this to
Mhm.
remedy, resolve. You'll be doing it in dream time. So have a week of kind of not drinking and sort of as healthy as you can, eating and lots of breathing and lots of Tai Chi. And then by the time you get to the site,
Mhm.
you will have remedy resolved everything, and you'll have a lot nicer time. You'll have a better experience.
And that's the heart space thing. It's so beautiful connecting in that way. And it's like it's moving really. And it's not just about that site. It's not just about us as individuals. It's like that it kind of wakes up the interconnectedness. So it's like it's for our world, right? Not just that one place. It's like heal yourself, heal the world kind of idea, right? How
Yeah.
there's an interconnectedness, and that's like it's really important.
Well,
Um,
each all of these megaliths, we have an Akashic grid, we have
exactly.
an electrical grid, and
Mhm.
these are esoteric realms. Like our bodies, our skin suits, we have an aura, we have an energy body, we have an astral body, we have an emotional body. Well, the earth has all these different kinds of bodies. She has an Akashic grid system. She has an emotional body. She has an electrical realms,
Yeah.
different layers. And so the earth grid, there's an evolutionary system embedded into the earth grid. So the earth grid is comprised of many different kinds of grid systems. And the megaliths, some megaliths are for the electrical realms, or some are for the Akashic grid system, or some are for the evolutionary realm grid system. So, if you don't know what it's for, that's fine. You don't need to. Some people don't need to. Some people need to know. But what you're doing is basically you're drawn to these sites to do your thing, to get your DNA, get your energy in that space, so you can give it an upgrade.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can give you an upgrade, and you get to level up as well. There
Yeah.
different abilities, super abilities you can earn, things like that. But the more grid work you do, the more higher self trades you make, the more you can level up.
Mhm.
And so some of these places you might not have a connection to, but you've volunteered to go, your higher self has volunteered you to go on a mission to connect with it and do your thing because you have this super ability or that super ability. And so you go to that certain place, to do a mission for the realm and get, earn something.
Mhm.
Whereas Nikki's pretty standard, you're there making this earth grid of megaliths, I think you've got a pretty solid mission intent,
Yeah.
right? You kind of know what you're doing. It's a strong calling.
Mhm.
Yeah. For me, I've kind of like I mean I know and I don't know, uh but uh, but like I follow my compulsions with it, and I've been doing this my whole life, and I don't need anybody else to tell me what, like, how to do or what to do, or where to go or what. I mean, like, I have my very clear needle that I follow, and I mean, and if you have that, cool, do it, and if you don't, then just, you know don't like stress out about that, or no. So it's I personally now really like the group aspect of grid healing, but
Mm-hmm.
because I used to do a lot of stuff solo, like like I backpacked Europe 6 months by myself, and that's not fun. I mean, it's fun at the time, but it's not, my preference is to go in group. I think that's a way better way to experience um places and energies of things. And and you get, especially when you're with other people who identify as with grid work, like that is very powerful in terms of other perspectives, and then you can geek out about it like way more than you would if it was just by yourself or with some like normie who doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you have to kind of be careful who you're going with, because sometimes you can have someone in your group, or someone's there that haven't really done enough inner work,
Mhm.
that and the rock won't like them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think
It causes disharmony in the group too. You can sense
Mhm.
it. We started doing a really cool technique to link up and harmonize the group. It's so magical. It's just awesome how we each bring an element. But you can tell, you can feel it when someone kind of spirals quick out of harmony. It does affect what you're doing. Or can, let me say.
I
Yeah.
think that's a huge component too, with also like, at least for me, I think the main piece that I always find with the grid work and completing the grid work, once kind of the initial discomfort and working through all the energies have, it's been completed. What I find, or what I'm always looking for with the site, is just being more in love and engulfed in reality. So that can expand to a lot of things. That could be, I'm more appreciative of just life in general. I'm less resentful. I'm less angry. All these sort of things you want to try to heal on a process of yourself, because if you're not doing the healing, then you're just, you're just doing everything for like, oh, you're healing the site, but you're not actually healing yourself. So kind of the Mandela effect of when you do kind of complete sort of grid work and missions in that way, you're feeling more expanded and healed, and on a personal level in your own life. And I think having people in resonance with you and want that also, how Anne was speaking about that, the inner work, and also Amanda, how you said the having people in alignment with that and having the awareness, they have the awareness of they want to actually heal something within them. That's what's going to be brought up. The micro is going to be a representation of the macro. So something that happened in your life with some sort of angry dispute you had with someone, or resentment, that's gonna hopefully what you're looking for on a personal level is lessening that, any of those feelings, and just being more blissful and lighter and in love with reality after the fact of the grid work, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I think that was a really good point too. Before I went on the Japan tour, my first group grid working tour, I think the week before I sat down and I meditated for about an hour. Well, not meditated, I just started doing inner work for an hour to remedy resolve all of the issues that are pertinent, that are applicable between me and all of the members of the group.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
It
so
worked
I
out well.
remedy resolved any issues. Have I chopped off Joaquin's head at another expression? Have I killed Nikki? We all do, our dark expressions are, pretty dark, can be. And
Hmm.
so I went through, there was a list, I think I had 17 issues with members of the group that I had to go through and remedy resolve to make sure they wouldn't surface in like a fight or an anger or a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
for me, well, actually for everyone, none of us had any issues with anyone. We all got along really well. There was no drama between any of us.
Mhm.
And I think that was because of, we all did this remedy resolution before we got together. And that's really important, because when we visit these sites, they're so powerful. Any chink in your armor, anything that could surface, it will, and it will cause conflict.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or you could fall over and twist your ankle or something. So you've got to resolve your issues with the group and with the site, with the megalith or wherever you're going. Make sure that you have that intent, so that you don't fall over and break your leg or something.
Mhm.
Well, and I think a lot of people I know because I've had comments in some of my videos and stuff. They're like, yeah, well, I don't have a group that I can go grid working with, or like, how do you even meet people like that? It's like this wasn't a thing before like 2020. None of us like it's not like 20 years ago I was going grid working with all my friends. Like that wasn't even a thing because it's like that like we're evolving into something different. Like so don't feel like you're behind or you're like, oh, I guess I don't have cool enough people I know or friends or like, I mean, you just have to, whatever like-minded individuals you do have, just go on a mutual trip together, go to someplace local. There are grid working points everywhere. It's not like you have to go halfway around the world or you don't have to be that extreme. It's like we all have different sets of circumstances. I'm a flight attendant. I get some cheap flight, like we have different kind of uh things that that make our it's available that I could do this or don't. But I mean, if you don't have the means and you don't have the time and you don't have like this crazy network um light worker people or whatever you want to call like awakening people or I don't know what you call us,
Mhm.
then just get like your most cool friend that you can kind of be open with and go on a hike somewhere near where you live and
Yeah.
feel into the energy of the earth like
Mhm.
that. It's as easy as that. Like it doesn't have to be as convoluted as grab like the best psychics in the world and go to Masuda and Fude in Japan. Like that's cool, do that, but
Yeah.
you don't have to do that.
And I think that's a really key important thing because we're talking about specifically, I think megaliths are like very magical sites, like, oh, pyramids, megaliths, all these huge things. And I really do see grid work also for just awareness as that literally could be your favorite tree in your backyard. That
Yeah.
could be also like a hike. You're like just like your favorite tree or mountain in your town. That is also a form of grid work because you're connecting with the land. And that's, I think, a key component of it too. There's obviously this like macro big level of yeah,
Nodal points
pyramids
or
or yeah, pyramids or these huge things or these huge world famous sort of sites. But then the mundanity, like having the mundane element seemingly, but it's really not. There's so much energy you can connect with just something like a tree in your town or a mountain in your town, and going on a hike is that's still a form of grid work.
Mhm.
When you have people in unity and you have that also intention of healing and uh, you know, respect for the land and inner work. You're still doing it when you're just going on a hike. That's still grid
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, or
I
just
was
going to the beach.
Yeah.
well, I was at a baseball game in like a kind of rough suburb of Boston.
Hmm.
It was a rough part of town, a lot of traffic, a lot going on, a lot of EMF frequency.
Hmm.
And this tree at the back corner of the property started talking to me. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're doing this, So, like, just to show you, like, you can find magic everywhere in your connection to the earth. So,
Mhm.
and I think not to like sidetrack, but Nikki and I have been working on kind of putting together some opportunities to bring people that are drawn to this sort of thing together. And like the New Mexico, Chaco Canyon, like there's a lot of magic
Yeah, there's
in New Mexico. So keep an eye out for that because I think that's such a passion that she and I also all of us want to share with people too, in very small group atmosphere. So keep your eyes
Yeah,
out for
we're offering
those
some
things.
tours and then also, but like if it's a place that you're like, I live in Australia or I live in Japan, I'm not gonna go to New Mexico, whatever. Like there are other that I think tours are kind of a nice way to get connected with like-minded individuals. There's other people doing that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
So like that's an option if you can afford that and that's something that you're like, yo, I want to do that.
Mhm.
But you know, otherwise, you don't have to. You could literally
Yeah.
do where your compulsion
Where
is.
you're at. Yep.
Mhm.
Well,
And
I
where
find that the universe that we are, if you have the intent, if you are interested in grid work and you'd like to, do it, or you're already doing it, the universe that we are, it will send us to the right place with the right people.
Yep.
I mean, I did not want to go to Göbekli Tepe because, obviously it's a really powerful place. What do I do when I go to these places? I meet the bad guys. That's my job. That's what I'm good at. And, I really didn't want to go to Göbekli Tepe because I thought it's in Turkey. I thought, oh my God, it's such a powerful place. Imagine what's there. Portals to hell. Oh crap, no. And so I was planning a trip to Europe in the summer of 2025. And then in January 2025, I started getting slammed with Göbekli Tepe. It was trying to connect with me. And I'm like, no, not interested. Not my thing. It's not my bit. No, I refuse. So I was trying to refuse it as best I could. In the end, it won. I had to connect with it. So I was connecting with it for a couple of months. And it took me a couple of months to deal with it. But then my Turkish friend calls me and she says, oh my God, I'm going to be in Turkey over the summer too. You should come visit. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not going to Göbekli Tepe. I'm only going to Istanbul. She's like, fine. And then like a week before I left, it was, we were going to Göbekli Tepe.
On a group trip.
Yeah, out of my control.
Yeah.
But I went and I didn't get slammed. It was a lovely energy. I got to just enjoy the area.
And you got huge downloads, remember, about the Akashic records.
Huge downloads. And it's an Akashic, it's a part of the Akashic grid and other magics. A really powerful place. So I did my bit. But why I think grid working is sort of coming into everyone's awareness a lot more that these past, I guess, 5 years. The Earth grid is awakening. All the Akashic grid is awakening. It's being restored. I'm doing my bit. You're all doing your bit. The electrical realms are revving up. They still need a bit of help. The evolutionary system, all those portals, that's coming back online. So, we are restoring, we are reclaiming our world of magic. And our world of magic is dependent on all the grids, the different kinds of earth grids being restored and healed and activated. And basically, we carry the genetics to do that. These rocks, they're dragon lineage, they're mantid lineage, they're unicorn lineage, they're, whatever lineage, and that's us. So we go there and we just sit there and maybe we'll just sit there and cry. Some of my my Swiss friends went to Australia and they were touring down south. And I said, well, did you have a nice time? And they're like, yeah, but I said, did you go to Misery Rock? This rock called Misery Rock. It's this beautiful, huge rock right on the beach. And they said, we went and we sat on the beach and one of them just cried. She just cried for about 5 minutes. But where did that come from? And then they just enjoyed the day. She said it was so weird, but I cried. There's something there. And sure enough, she did her bit without knowing. And there's so many beaches in the southwest of Australia. They ended up at that one. She needed to be there, as they're touring the southwest. She needed to go to that particular beach and have a good cry. And that's remedy resolving. So the universe will take you where you need to go. The universe that you are will take you where you need to go. And if you have the awareness and intent to remedy resolve, do your bit, then you might end up crying at a certain place or feel overwhelmed with emotion. So let it flow. You're doing your bit. And it's a good thing. And be careful what you take home.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to next. So we command.
Amanda?
Yeah, so we command, going in untangled. And I did all of this, but there was a little we won't get into that, of something that came home with us. Um, so even when you do that command, like, what is your, I know you say you don't do a lot in person, but this is a question for everybody. You know, what is your process when you come home? Because sometimes we can, like you were saying, Anne, sometimes you come home and you feel great. And then it's like, oh, it's just something kind of like that entanglement kind of, you start to become aware of it or not. You might start having symptoms and you're not really sure where that is or what it's coming from. So what's a good practice? And I think it would be something to do daily. Sometimes when we're traveling together, we're at sites all over the place, different places, different days. Like, you know, what's a good end of day practice? What's a good, when you get home in your own space, kind of things to do to kind of
Well,
ensure you're
my
disentangled?
favorite thing to do was to go, you know, wherever we were staying, I would grab Joaquin, we'd go outside, have a cigarette and do Tai Chi and just breathe it out. Because we were visiting 2 or 3 sites a day.
And toning too. That's good.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because I think toning is really
singing.
huge for me personally. Movement, dance, singing,
And I think
breathing.
I think specifically on Amanda, my kind of protocol, because I think that's a huge element. Yeah, the qigong, the having I don't know, a soda or something to just kind of like, you know, good food, all that sort of thing to just I guess anchor in the healing and anchor in kind of that joyful energy. And I
Yeah.
think specifically for people on items and taking stuff home, for me it's okay, does this give you just an overwhelming sense of joy and happiness that you bought it? So it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if it's $2 or $200. Like for example, I bought Pokemon cards in a little vending machine at what is it called? It's called
Don Quixote.
Don Quixote,
Don
yeah.
Quixote. Everybody
So
needs to go
like
there and do
that
it.
was
Donkey.
Don Quixote, right? So it's like this ridiculous store, and it was such a fun experience getting these little like Pokeballs and then opening them up, and there's a little pack of cards in them, and you know the writing's in Japanese, so it's like that just brings me so much joy every time I see it. Or there was a frog t-shirt I got just at like the Uniglow store, but that gives me such a fun memory instantly of, oh, this is my Japanese shirt. This is these Japanese cards. Whatever I'm taking, and those are just 3D like items that are, you know, like gift shop sort of items. But I think specifically if there's a rock or if there's
Or like this is my
or
Japanese bowl.
yeah, if there's any sort of, so that I think we're, you know, is in alignment with everything. Like if it doesn't give you this overwhelming sense of appreciation and joy and connection with the place and just like, oh, like the memory of it just gives you a fun feeling. There's no entanglement or there's no like resentment or any sort of bagged emotion, like negative emotion around the item. Oh, I totally didn't, I spent too much on that. That's ridiculous. I bought that. I totally regret that. Or I was kind of, because I actually, interesting, I'll give you this example too. I almost bought a kimono and it was like, I think it was almost $200, but then I was just like, if it doesn't give me overwhelming joy and just like feeling of like, oh my God, thank God I bought this, and there's no attachment around the fear of money or the fear of oh, I should have got a different item. And I'm just using kind of gift shop items, but it still applies to anything we buy, where if it doesn't give you that overwhelming memory and sense of joy in that experience of when you either bought it, or it could have just been a free thing. It could have been the free
All
cookie.
my stuff is free. Like I have this whole big jar is just full of like, oh, I found this coral on the beach or Mount Fuji sand or
Right.
like
Like a
like a rock that I found that looks like another rock that I found in San Francisco, but this one was found in Japan.
or just like a free
I got tons of snail shells.
But I have to
the
say, because Nikki is like a megalith DNA lineage kind of queen,
Mhm.
you're allowed to take stuff like that.
right. So
If I take a shell or a bit of sand or something from a site, I always just make sure, do I have permission for this? Is that
Mhm.
okay? You know, I'm just a little bit respectful.
Mhm.
And usually I'll get permission to
Mhm.
take something. You know, usually it's not a problem, but elementals are very grateful. Well, thank you for asking.
Mhm.
And some things I'm not allowed to take, some little
Yeah.
weird things, and it's because they don't like me.
My indication for if I could take it or not is if it makes a noise and I can hear it. And like, so like, and I'll say, "Oh, you want to come home with me?" And it'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I totally believe things call out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like
so
so.
there can also be, this has happened to me quite a few times actually on my journey. Something will call out to me, and I'll get a really good vibe, and I'll take it home, and it will be completely possessed and negative. It somehow gave me the whammy. It deceived me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And one time I wanted to get this crystal skull, but it was like $200. It was quite big, it was a huge crystal skull. I don't know why I wanted one. I don't like them. I was just given the whammy that I have to get it.
Mm.
And then it was $200, and I thought, oh my God, I can't afford that. I'm not paying $200 for that. And the guy at the shop said, "Oh, look, we're closing, we're closing in like half hour, and it's the last day of the gemstone fair. I'll just give it to you for $50." And I'm like, okay, God,
So you
it
trust
was
it. You're like,
$200.
ooh,
And I'm like,
right?
wow, that's really cool. And he couldn't wrap it up quick enough. He wrapped it up so quickly, and then I hadn't even got my money out. I'm like, whoa, okay,
Mm.
this is so cool. So I get home, of course it was possessed by some
Right, that wanted to come.
guy that, yeah, God, did I get, that's a story. So yeah, be careful of what you think is a good deal or a good bargain. And in those days, I wasn't so discerning. I didn't know how to be so discerning.
Mm.
So just be aware that, these crystals and these stones can call out to you, and it can be for your highest good or not. If it's not, it's okay. You'll deal with it.
Yeah.
You'll get slammed, and you'll deal with it. If
Yeah.
you've got something dark that you really don't like, giving it away won't solve the problem. I had quite a few stones that were possessed and haunted and all sorts of things, and I gave them to friends, and they would still haunt my dreams. So the best thing, and I had to deal with them one by one. I had to do the work. But another way, bury them in the earth, and Mother Earth will take care of them. Leave them buried for as long as you intuit.
Mhm.
I think that's really important what you drew to people's attention. Even if you take something home that's possessed, like it's going to be okay. I think
Yeah,
that
it's okay. I'm still
it,
standing.
yeah, like I think we have to realize like we're really powerful. And sometimes when things like this happen, it's education. We learn, okay, now I know what that is. Now I know what to look for. Now I know how to deal with it. So like I think for myself sometimes I can be over analytical and like, "Oh, I need to say this thing and make this command, before I go to these sites." And then it's like you get too into it and then you can kind of interfere with your whole experience, right? Because you don't want to go in a state of fear or worry because that'll impede on the experience that you're there to
But
have.
yet, sometimes you can go to a site and be all excited and really into it, and you get there and you can feel the
Yeah,
dark energy. You can feel a shadow there.
true.
And that's the time where you need to
Yeah.
not ignore it and take some action, either leave the site
Mm-hmm.
or stand there and be sovereign and remedy resolve it. Sometimes that's not for your highest good.
Right.
But if you feel the dark energies at the site,
Get out.
you need to remedy resolve that either by leaving or by dealing with it. And
Yeah.
just by leaving, you're still going to have to deal with it later, because you don't know what's attached to you.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's good awareness. And I think, but the only way we can really be in tune with our intuitions and our understanding of these things if we're not in a state of fear. We're in a state of sovereignty, alignment, and be able to be discerning so that we can feel that those things clearly. coming into
Yeah.
spaces.
And
Yeah.
there are places that even I've gone to where I'm like, ugh, I don't really like this place. This is like kind of like, ew. Like, and like I thought I was supposed to like this place. Like I'm
Yeah.
supposed
Well,
to,
I think Turkey was a good example
oh
of
yeah.
Göbekli Tepe
Yeah.
with me.
Turkey was a good example where I was just like,
Yeah, you thought you were
like
gonna like it more
especially
than
like Darren Kuru, because I
yeah.
love caves. Like you, I think I could be a monk that lives in a cave for like all the time and like, you know, got my, I don't know, I could totally just be like grounded and sleep in the rocks and stuff. I love caves. I
Mhm.
hated Darren Kuru.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I went there back in 1994 or 1995, you know, when I wasn't awake, didn't have any super abilities that I knew of. And it's this underground city. It goes like 6 or 10 levels underground, and
Mm.
we get down to level 6 or whatever, and I'm just like, I've got to get out of here. It was, yeah, really dark, bad feeling.
Me
Mhm.
too. I just had,
Yeah.
I was like, ugh, this is like
I
what,
think that place needs a lot of healing.
yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly. And but that's the thing is like sometimes I will be like, I don't like you, but I'm gonna give you some love and I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing is that these energies can stick around, you know, like we did maybe 4 or 5 megaliths a day.
Yeah.
And so we went to some pretty huge sites. These sites were incredibly sacred, incredibly overpowerful, magical, you know, all within 4 days or something. And as an energy sensitive, it took me months to clear the energies. There's a lot of haunting, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of elementals around that just got confused. You know, these sites have been offline and corrupt and stagnant in stagnation for a long time. They've, you know,
Or
the
like
earth,
Ishina Holden, where it's been turned into a something that it's been turned into a shrine, right? So you have all those imposed belief systems and structures and like other people putting other projections on it, but
Yeah.
that's not, they don't even know what it was originally built for.
Mhm.
can I talk about that? Um, yeah, Ishinahoden, it's this little temple on this massive, massive rock. It, you know, we actually climbed to the top of it and walked along it. It's just
And
huge.
saw a praying mantis when we
Yeah.
walked to the top, remember?
And Joaquin, I think you saw the praying mantis and you're like, look, there's a praying mantis. And we're like, uh-oh. And so we did our thing there. And then I think we got told off for smoking.
Yeah.
Oops. But boy, did we need it. Yeah, that place is, you know, contained a lot of energy. It was very super powered. And it took me, you know, quite a few weeks to get over that one. Just, it had been in stagnation for a long time. And, you know, one thing that we don't know we're doing, which is really, really beautiful for those people that aren't actively psychic, but are still interested in grid work, just going there connects you to that place, and then you can give them a download of just all the fun YouTube videos you watched, like this one, your spiritual journey, and you can share that data with the rocks, and then they're all the elementals, you know, the interdimensional life there, and so you can have this exchange of where you're at, of your journey. And so they get excited. It's like, oh yeah, humans are actually thinking about this now and awakening, and oh, the nature of reality is what? And so you kind of share all of this excitement. So never, never underestimate your presence at any place.
Mhm.
Never underestimate, even if you don't think you're psychic, if you don't think you've got anything to offer, even if you're just going walking and not singing or humming or meditating or, you know, getting corrupt mantids, you are doing so much more than you know. So it's really important to get out, even beaches. I was swimming at a beach in Japan, regularly.
Mhm.
And sometimes I would just get really slammed or have a really bad swim, and I'm like, how could this swim be bad? How I love the beach. And I would just feel shitty and crappy, and I'm like, oh. But this went on for like 3 or 4 months.
Mm.
And then I realized I was actually healing a massive battle that had taken place on that beach.
Mhm.
I didn't know that a battle had taken place. And it was only, someone just mentioned, oh yeah, in history, this was the place of this huge battle. And when I did research into it, and it's like, oh crap, the
Mhm.
sea turned red with blood. It was just awful. And so I'd been going to this beach in my unknowingness and healing the trauma and getting rid of the haunting and just doing my thing just by swimming in my unawareness.
Mhm.
So never underestimate your power to do your bit to clean up our earth grid, to restore our world of magic. This is why we're all here. And I really, and with awareness and intent, you can do even more.
Mhm.
And so that's why grid working, I think, is a thing now, and it's a good thing. It's a
Mhm.
good thing.
I agree.
And I
Amazing.
think too, just the key element that's I think so important is when you're connecting with the land tells you what it is. Like the mantid, when we were looking for guidance, we turned and I looked and I was like, oh, it's a praying mantis. And I
Mhm.
always find that if it's like, I'll look outside and it's a crow, or it's I look and I look for direction and it's a tree. That's the tell. That's your consciousness giving you the tell of, okay, this is what this is in relation with, or what your bit is. Your piece is that element where Nikki's always going to be fixated on the rocks, and
He
sometimes
doesn't
then
care about the rocks
and
at
then
all.
we'll be looking around and seeing, okay, what am I connecting with? What is this? Am I feeling? And then we'll see a praying mantis. So having that really big awareness on there's really nothing superfluous. And anytime you're looking at something like that, it's gonna tell you kind of what your piece is and how you're connecting with it. That if that sort of makes sense in the grand scheme of things on what you're connecting with, it'll always tell you that piece.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The universe that we are.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's some protocols that we could do to like close it out so that you end on good terms, you and the grid?
Well, yeah, you've got to, once you've resolved your issues before you go, and then you go, you can have a better time. But once you leave, I learned from Joaquin, Tai Chi, we would stand outside and we would move and breathe. And that I'd never done that before. So that was really good for me. I also would I've got a protocol, like a closing the session protocol. It's on my YouTube. It's a video closing the session. So you can adapt something like that to your experience there. I revoke anything following me home. I cut all entanglements with this site. But before you do that, you kind of do have to make sure you've remedy resolved everything.
Mhm.
And that you remain unknown and unseen as required for your highest good. I would definitely shake, like physically shake everything off.
Mhm.
It's because we are physical beings. And if something's followed you, I guess you'll find out and you'll know about that. Then that's when you start doing the inner work. But if you get sick, or if you fall over and injure yourself at a place or afterwards, if you get sick afterwards, or if you get injured there, you've got issues with that place. That place didn't like you for whatever reason. So remedy resolve, and a good remedy resolution, just general, is, I just revoke all abuse, corruption, usurping, distortion, betrayal of energies linked to this site as applicable for my highest good alone, and I remedy, resolve in true divine time as required for my highest good alone. But if there are energies that are best left alone, I remain unknown and unseen to them from the 0 point.
Mhm.
And I seal and heal all portals, rips, holes, tears, and leaks as required. And I, where was I? And I remain,
You seal and heal all rips, tears. Was the
oh,
last-
closing all the portals, and then I remedy, resolve any issues as required for my highest good with unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, no judgment. I have a no kill policy, but I can and will defend myself.
Mhm.
And I will kill if there's no karma, but that is my absolute last choice. So I'm going to spark the original source light within you to remind you who you are.
Yeah.
And you
I
can
think-
kind of separate the energies. I always separate the energies of an entity.
Mhm.
Some energies need to go back to the antiverse. Some energies need to be healed. Some energies are best left unknown and unseen. Some energies should be sent to the parallel world. Some energies you need to negotiate with. And, there's a whole list of ways to deal with energies. Some energies, some things, when you deal with them, you need super abilities to do certain things.
Mm.
But generally, your higher self will only give you what you can handle.
Mhm.
But if you do get into overwhelm and you don't think you can handle them, then, I advise you to see a good energy healer like Joaquin, because it is important to remedy, resolve, and issues the sooner the better.
Mhm.
Because if you don't, you can get sick, you can, break your leg, you can, everything that happens to us is dimensional, I believe.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it is important to be aware of this, unless you're like Nikki and you just cruise through and the rocks just love you.
I like I said, I still get an ailment here or there, so it happens to the best of us here.
Occasionally, yeah. But I mean, just with intent and awareness that, some places are haunted and we all have innate protection. We all have it. And so just make sure that before you go, you've done your list of things you need to remedy, resolve with unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness for the group, for the site, and spend, just even if you're not psychic, just spend a week dealing with those energies. You might be depressed, you might, get angry. This is all not you. This is you processing energies. And so when you go to the site, you'll have a better experience. I don't say you won't get slammed. You may not, but there's a better possibility that you won't get slammed and you'll have a better experience. And that's when you can really sit there and enjoy it and talk to the place and get more information. Unfortunately, with our Japan trip, we were just all these huge sacred megalithic sites, 3 or 4 a day. We were I was just getting slammed at every one of them. And so I didn't really have time to get to know them. But in the months afterwards, as I was kept getting rid of the stuff and dealing with it, there was a lot of work to do. I got to know some of these sites and they're pretty awesome, but it did take time. And one thing I had to do was for about 3 months, 4 months, I had to have hot and cold showers. So I would get a hot shower with a bucket of cold water and just dump cold water, hot water, cold water hot water.
Mhm.
And this was to get rid of the sticky stuff, the sticky energy
Mhm.
that needed to be shocked to get away. It
Yeah.
was
I totally
physically
agree.
grueling for
You
me.
know, and I was downloading information from the Japanese sites for at least like 2 months afterwards. Like I was still getting stuff coming in. I got a huge thing about the Titans came in for me in Okinawa, and like that it took like hell. I think I'm still getting more information about it.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's really it's like there's a communications happening with this within your I liked your analogy a little bit earlier about the whole like, oh, these could be like organ nodal points or something, but
Mhm.
like we really are could be like cool like T cells, or like in the bloodstream of Gaia, like going around being like, yeah, let's give the heart some love, let's give some liver the love, let's give the
Mhm.
whatever it is. But it's like, I think there's an interconnective communication actually bouncing back and happening.
Mhm.
Like this
Mhm.
grid is a grid. Like, what does a grid do? A grid is like it connects, it connects things, it connects people, it connects us. And um so that's the thing, is like I do feel wired into more timelines and more possibilities than before. So I think you can get information from these sites way after the fact.
Mhm. And I think, yeah, the understanding it as the white blood cells is, I think, isn't that what it is? White blood
Or
cells?
T cells,
T
or
cells,
whatever they're
yeah.
called. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I think, also too, what's really important is everything will manifest, at least for me and in my experience, there will always be the physical component too that you'll, either if it's even in your unawareness, just like an uncomfortable feeling, and then listening into your body. And I think that's why the Qigong, or I have the same experience too of the hot and cold showers, that hot and cold therapy, because that's going to really dial you in and you'll be connected to your body then. You'll be very receptive and aware of what you're actually feeling. So you can kind of clear the mind and really feel into your body, because your body will tell you everything you'll need to know about the site, or about how how you're feeling and how you're processing the energy. The body will always kind of be a gauge or a barometer of, okay, where am I feeling in this? Oh wait, there's something still kind of in my shoulder I'm feeling. There's something kind of in my body. Oh, my back seems a little tight. All those things have that then interdimensional, multidimensional aspect of it that you're still maybe working through.
And even like in energy healing, when you're done like doing, like if you've ever done any
Hmm.
kind of Reiki or whatever kind of energy healing stuff people do, that's like the Hawaiians have the thing where it's like you grab your elbows and you pull, and you shake off like you're shaking off someone else's energy. Like you should always, and so like it's interesting that you guys keep on talking about like the qigong element of, yeah, you got to shake it off too, like shake this stuff off of you.
Right. It's a
Shake like
very
a
it's a
dog.
very
Yeah.
physical thing that's, even though it's obviously we're working with this unseen in a, for an, I guess, like a normal perspective of what reality is, we still have stuff that's on us that we're clearing or sloughing off, and healing. So it's a very physical component of it is very key. And Anne obviously likes to, have her meditation ritual where she's smoking, which is, clearing the lungs and having the breathing, component of it too, which is so important.
Well,
Breathing for
tobacco,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah, the
tobacco is
tobacco
the
spirit.
unity,
Yeah, right.
and I'm always uniting energies. That's my thing.
Right.
But I think that's always my thing is to unite, and that's why I love smoking. And coffee is awakening energy. So awakening and unity, baby. That's coffee and a cigarette.
Mhm.
That's the health advice there. Yeah.
Mhm.
I yeah, I don't know what mine is, but like I definitely, I need a lot of sleep too after all these things, because like that, like the dream space is where a lot of my integration starts, and so that's why I hate the super early mornings right after a huge megalith thing, because I'm like, no, I need to like get all my downloads. But
But
yeah.
that's true too. Getting a lot of, you're going to be potentially extra tired, or Anne calls them sleep whammies. You know, you might be
Yeah.
extra tired after certain things where you almost have this like blanket of almost tiredness put on you, and you're just like, oh, and I
Oh,
just need to relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, big
Well,
yawn.
especially Japan. I
Yeah,
mean, for us, it
yeah.
was like 13-hour time difference. And
Hmm.
you just got adjusted to the time at the end of the time that you were there and come back. And then not only are you integrating all of that, you're adjusting back to the time, to the eating at different hours. It was pretty brutal coming back.
it
Yeah.
And
is, yeah,
jumping
yeah,
back
jet
into your
lag.
3D world, of running kids to school. I have to get up to take them to school and the feeding and all of the normal runaround.
And
Yeah,
you're
I think, coming back from a trip, especially if you've got jet lag, plus dealing with the leftover energies, there's usually leftover energies for me in my experience. And it could take, weeks or months to process, depending on how many megalith. What are you yawning about?
I don't know. It's been, yeah, I've been nodding my head off them.
You were saying something about a sleep whammy, and then you started yawning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think that grid working is really, really important, because I think our grid, the layers of our grid, all the grids were in not good condition. I think they were usurped and hijacked.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why so many people are doing grid work now. And, in my mind, I think there'll be a time where we don't really have to do grid work. We can rather just go to these sites and we'll know what they're for, and we'll go to these sites and we'll engage with upgrades and share share our upgrades with them. So I think that's, or these, a lot of these stones, are Akashic libraries. The stones always have data and information.
Mhm.
And so we won't go there and get slammed or have to do any grid work. We'll go there and, oh, let's go, read a book about this realm history or something and access information, and it will
And
be kind of
more are
fun.
popping into reality. It's
Yeah.
like I think that it's not a finite amount. Like I've been studying this stuff for a long time and more pop up all the time. So
Well, these are Mandela effects. The
Mhm.
more we heal of ourselves, the more we of the grid that we heal. These sites, some of these megalithic ruins, the star forts in ruins, things like that. But the more we heal the grid and ourselves, there'll be Mandela effects where they'll actually come back intact.
mhm,
Hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or appear. They might appear in ruins for us to notice it, be aware of it, and in our dream time, we're all doing our bit to heal it and restore it. And then the next thing you know, it's intact and functioning, and always was. Like a Mandela effect. Well, it's never been in ruins. What are you
Mhm.
talking about? It's always been there, and
Right.
it's in its glory. So I think this is how we make timeline corrections. They are seamless and we don't notice them. And this is why more and more are coming into your awareness. Like, I never heard of this one before, and they're just these megalithic sites and strange star forts and ruins. They're just popping up all over the place now, to be noticed by us. So we
Yes.
go and do our thing either physically or remotely. Just watching a video about something can trigger you, and you can,
Yeah.
in your dream time, you can go there and do your bit. And so even if ever you watch a video about a beach or something, and then the next day you get sick or get triggered or injure yourself, you might backtrack the injury or the illness to that video you watched, to that beach. Oh, you have to remedy, resolve issues with that area.
Mm.
What's in that area? Oh, there's a big castle there, or a star fort. So anything that happens to you, you can always track back to some place or a person or an event. And so grid working is becoming more and more important for us these days, and I think we're all doing it, either in our dream time, in our awareness or unawareness, probably all three.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just really important to get the place to like you before you go,
Mm.
because it might be too late by the time you get there. So it's really important to get the place to like you.
Mhm.
And sometimes if you're working at a bit of a higher level, you should always ask for the guardian or the chief of the area.
Mm.
I did that with Göbekli Tepe. I do that with a lot of places. I ask, who's in charge here?
Mm.
And, they might be evil or neutral or not very nice or kind of nice. And, you never know.
Well, the Big Island, I can tell you, it's Pele. I met her myself, so you might want to talk to her before you go.
Yeah, I highly recommend if you're a higher level active psychic that you ask to speak to the chief of the area just to introduce yourself, if nothing else,
Mhm.
and see how that goes. And
Well,
sometimes it doesn't go well.
yeah, well,
Sometimes they're better
I
left
mean,
unknown and unseen too.
yeah, I had a brutal experience with under Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
would never
have,
go there.
oh, I know, I wouldn't now. Not underneath anyway. We had a great experience when we were there, but I had a new level of awareness, and it's really important to be reverent. And I think, who I was with didn't quite have this awareness, of the type of someone said karmic dumping, correct me if I'm wrong, but we went under there, and man, I could feel my stomach, my gut start churning, and it was awful.
Mm.
And our leader wanted to meditate and stay, and two of us were having a really hard time, and we got out of there and came back. I mean, we were sick for a month, like brutal sick, like
Yeah,
had to do a whole
and
gut
always
rebuilding,
always
cleansing.
pay attention to that. If the
Mhm.
others are having a good time but you're not, okay, you have issues with that place, and you
Mhm.
can leave and then deal with those issues and remedy resolve them.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad.
Yeah.
It's good to remedy resolve because you get to reclaim your stolen soul shards from your unicorn or your dragon or your
Yeah.
spider or whoever. So
Mhm.
it's a good thing. It's an opportunity for you to level up.
Yeah. And going back this time, you was real reverent, did the work, now that since I had the
I
awareness.
think
And
reverent is the wrong
was-
word.
is it the wrong word? Okay.
Yeah. I don't hold anything in reverence because for me that implies I revere and worship it. That's
Oh,
just me.
okay. Okay, I got that word from somebody else, so thanks for the correction.
I always stand as an equal,
Ah,
always as an equal.
yeah.
And I do respect whatever I encounter, good, evil, neutral, whatever. I will respect you as a living, as life itself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I am your equal.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like it gets in my head, yeah, but I'm better. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to engage in a battle of ego here.
Mm-hmm.
So you may perceive me as weaker or stronger. That's your deal. I'm standing here as your equal,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm awesome but humble.
Yeah.
Awesome but humble.
I like
Yeah.
that.
That's kind of my joke to get them laughing, because I am awesome. We all are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to be humble in a very balanced way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me, just the word reverence just implies revering and worshipping, and
Yeah, that's
that
not.
immediately puts you lower. That's just how I interpret that. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to use those words. I would always use I'm standing here as your equal in my full sovereignty.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, if they start giving me a hard time, I can kind of give them a flash or an image of who I am, my
Mhm.
entire goddamn galactic spirit tree.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know everything,
Yeah.
but I know enough. So this is who I am, and I'm of the light, and my intent is not to do harm.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I can leave you be if you like.
I mean,
Yeah.
and hierarchies, I feel like are like I've always thought about this ever since I was little. I was like, this is not something that is on every realm. The amount of hierarchy we have on this planet is so
Yeah.
crazy, and it's just self-imposed. We're all like souls, like, I mean, there's not really, like there's not hierarchy everywhere. That's like a game we play here, but that's not really a thing everywhere.
Well, well, I meet a lot of people, and it's like, yeah, I'm a Pleiadian princess, or I'm a dragon
I
princess, or
know.
something like this.
Yeah.
I know. So
And
many
I'm
people.
like,
Oh
I'm
shit.
like, okay, yeah, you are. I can see this expression of you with a crown on. And I'm
Mhm.
like, that crown is a restraint. Will you let me get it off for you? They're restraints. All crowns, it's a technology to restrain. It's a restraint. It impedes your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mhm.
are restraints. You know, there are, any kind of so-called royal lineage might be just a very high frequency, high dimensional lineage, but they're
Mhm.
not running around with crowns on,
No.
with subjects and people bowing down to them, because that in itself is a complete distortion.
Yeah.
Right.
I've gone up against predators, huge, and I will stand my ground. I will
Mhm.
stand my ground in all of my light, not just me as a human, in all of my light, my entire goddamn spirit tree, plus my armies.
Mm-hmm.
We all have armies. The more you do, the more you level up, the more you get DNA lineages to like you. If people like you, they'll have you back. They'll support you. So
Yeah.
I don't call out for help. I just know it's there. And I'm doing my thing and I expect help. So I just know I'm supported.
Yeah.
But if I start calling out to entities, then I've got to discern who they are. And if I'm working with angels and Jesus and Buddha and stuff, well, I've got to figure out, okay, who you really say you are. Even if I have the intent, only the real one, only the real light one. Well, yeah, they're all light. They're all made of light.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, let's do an authority audit for that light. Oh, it's stolen. So you can ask someone, are you of the light? Are you a being of light? And they can say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But then you ask, okay, is that authorized light? Is it usurped light?
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think
I don't think so.
I totally agree with, unfortunately, the word of, I feel reverence has been totally kind of the perception of it in the current understanding of English as is a total distortion or a total thing where I think how the intention or the original use of it is that sort of mutual self-respect, and
Complete
it's of
respect.
a soul or of a being that has such it's done so much good. It's kind of like, oh, you're paying respect and homage to like an elder almost,
Mm-hmm.
in that sort of way where you're paying respect to an elder, and that could be like this, this beautiful ent spirit, like a tree spirit, or like some beautiful spirit, and you're paying respect to it. And that's, I think, how the uncorrupted version of reverence is, because there's that, mutual self-respect and there's this mutual love. But yeah, totally not how, unfortunately, we in, I guess, a Western context or a modern context view the reverence, where it's this bowing, kneeling, subservient, hierarchical class thing that's been
Well,
a
I
distortion.
think of reverent.
Yeah.
Just thinking someone's better than you. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah, I guess I didn't perceive it that way. I took it
oh,
as
Well,
good.
like
Yeah.
utmost respect, like with a
Lovely.
respectful heart, not never on my knees worshiping kind of
well,
thing.
see,
So
but
I
for
think
me, I thought of it more of Anne because I think of reverend. I'm like that's a title within the church. Is like,
Mhm.
oh, he's a like oh, I'm the reverend of this parish or whatever, is like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, that's like a priest of a church. So reverend is actually like, I think the root word of it is you paid reverent to the reverend. So it's like it is actually it's a religious hierarchy, like the root of the actual word is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really important to choose our words carefully because they can
Yeah.
be twisted and usurped.
Yeah.
But yeah, just standing as equal and really get people to like you. Get rocks to like you, you know, and if they don't like you, it's an excellent chance to level up and reclaim some missing soul shards that are being abused that result in this entity not liking you.
Hmm.
So, you know, anytime you feel the slam or the negative energy or the dark energy or something doesn't like you, just go, okay, we can remedy resolve this and I can reclaim some stolen soul shards that are being used against me.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. You get to level up.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else to say before we wrap up?
Go places. Like go do it. It was fun. Like you
Go
don't
do
need
it. Exactly.
permission and you don't need instructions necessarily. This is just some advice that you take it or leave what you can or don't. And but yeah, like I think the grid needs us all. So
It
you're
does, and it can be challenging. And so this video was really just a heads up of what you might expect as you level up and because I think grid working it's a thing. It's a thing.
totally a thing.
So you've got a tour coming up in September.
Yeah, on the 25th through the 29th, we're going to Shiprock, Chaco Canyon, Mesa Verde. It's like the Four Corners area of New Mexico up there. And I mean, it's actually like one of the places that yeah, like Amanda was saying at the beginning, we first kind of connected. We met before. Like I met him in Sedona, and I met Amanda in what's that place called? The
Grafton, Illinois.
Grafton,
For the,
Illinois.
I think that's the
Like,
first time we met.
yeah, but then this was the bondage or the bonding.
Yeah. Shiprock.
Oh, that sounds weird. It was like the bonding trip, right?
Yeah.
And like Shiprock is like, I don't know, it looks like the Emerald City and some giant, amazing, like the most spiritual place in the United States, in my opinion. And you just go there and you're like, what is
I know
this?
people don't even know. Like, there's nobody there. Like, we pull up to this thing and the energy is so powerful off of it that I had to hold on to the car, like, to get my bearings at first. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's super unbelievable. And I mean, I kind of don't want everybody to know either, you know, because then they'll make it into a national park and they'll do all this stuff. And it's Native American land right now, or it's BLM land. So I think you're technically not supposed to go on there, but there's nothing that says you can't. And there's no gates, no fences, nothing else. So they have a road that drives right up to it. So it's yeah,
Come,
even if you don't
join
come with
us. It'll
us, you
be
should go
fun.
sometime in your
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you
What-
want, we're gonna try to do that. And I actually think we're gonna do try to do that area maybe annually because well, we live in New Mexico, so it's not that far from us. And then also we're like the OG goats on this stuff, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, we plan on going to
definitely fall
Japan
in.
again next year. So yeah, I don't know how have the exact details of that, except I do want to see some cherry blossoms. So maybe this exact time, like March, late March of 2027. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's that year already, almost. Like that's too much. And then we're gonna go to Oaxaca, Mexico in December for like a women's retreat.
Women's
Me and
retreat,
Amanda
yeah.
are doing that. And that's seeing some more pyramids and megalithic things and yeah. So anyway, grid work stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could come. But I'll have to get you guys to come to Australia
Well, I was gonna say we're
Yeah.
gonna have to come do a
or
grid
Yeah,
Japan.
we need to connect on that.
Yeah. Great. Well, if you get drawn or are interested to go grid working with these guys, I can highly recommend it. I had a really good time. A great group
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, and
Thank you for having us, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Thanks for taking the time to talk through all this with us. Appreciate it.
thanks. Well, yeah, none of us really know what we're doing, so we're all just winging it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.